Imagine with me, somebody's speaking, and I'm the evaluator. And I look over at him, I'm going, that was a horrible speech! What am I going to say? To compound it, this wasn't just in a club. I'd only been in Toastmasters maybe 6 months. I didn't quite know what I was doing yet. This was in a contest with a whole room full of people. I couldn't back out, and all I kept thinking, that was a terrible speech. What can I say? I can't say that, that speech, that wouldn't work. That doesn't go. But sometimes when we're first Toastmasters, that's kind of what we think. We're not quite geared up to how to do a Toastmasters evaluation. How to be kind of nice about that. So tonight, what I'm going to do with the art of effective evaluation, I'm going to talk about the why and the how of doing good evaluations. And we can never really go over this too much because this is really an important part to it. It's not just the speaking part, but it's the evaluation and the feedback the individual gets from that. And by us doing that, learning those listening skills, we learn how to be better. So we have a booklet right here. The reason we do evaluations is to help people become better speakers. One of the things you can't do is you can't say, wait, that speech is really awful and you're really an awful person. That doesn't quite work. We try to be nicer. We really want to have as one of our core values is we want to help build their esteem, build their motivation. You might want to remember this phrase, evaluate to motivate. When we're done evaluating your speech, you want to feel like, I'm motivated to do something better. I may have learned a few things, but we've motivated you. So that's one of the key concepts. It's helped, especially if it's a person who's relatively new. You don't know how sensitive people are or not. You say something and it's just a little harsh. So lots of times when they're new people first coming in, we want to be very careful to be nice and kind about that. Now, the other half of that is we don't want to make it a whitewash. By that I mean, boy, that was the greatest speech that I've ever seen given in the galaxy. And they know that wasn't quite that good. But you want to encourage them. And because we get better and better by doing this more and more. Better. 3 roles of an evaluator. We already talked about one is a motivator. You want to help motivate the person. Or at least not destroy the person. The second one is be a facilitator. You need to help them. What are things they can actually do? They might feel good, but if you don't give them anything to get a feel for it, what did I do? How can I be better? Because we want to not just feel good, we actually want to be better. And methods for evaluation. The first one that they have there is tell and sell. That's why I just tell you. You said, listen, here's what you did. You did that wrong because your left foot should have been over there when your right foot should have been over there and your hand was over here. And now, that just kind of tells you we wouldn't really go quite. There's also a tell and listen, which we rarely actually do this, where it's much more interactive. Where I would be talking to Ed and say, Ed, this is what I saw, and he would interact with me. We rarely do that kind of an interaction. But then I wrote in additional numbers. That's me. I add to things like that. Number 4, you can write this in. I would call the 4th one round robin. I alluded to the Speakers Bureau. That's the way they do evaluations there, which means you would start here. You wouldn't have an individual evaluator like you're going to see later tonight, but you just start, and each person would have a chance to give their feedback. One thing to remember, every evaluation is that person's opinion. I've seen countless times where somebody said, oh, I really didn't like the way you did this, or I liked the way you did that, and I was thinking exactly the opposite. I've seen it happen at clubs where they've used round robin, where they have both counted it. Said one person, no. So what you're doing sometimes, you're looking for a consensus. Nobody liked the fact that I put my hand up. Oh, well, maybe I should correct that. Well, one person liked it, one didn't. So you've got to keep your own counsel sometimes when you're getting evaluation. So round robin is a way you can do that. Because in judging for a contest, you're looking to pick a winner, which is different than the feedback you give. Because I'm not trying to make Marcia feel warm and fuzzy. I'm trying to figure out who is going to be number 1 on my ballot. That's right. You won't feel warm and fuzzy afterward. That one. There's also what I would call at a completely different level, coaching. Coaching can be tough. I remember, and I have it written down here, Darren LaCroix, the 2001 world champion. I flew all the way to Boston when I was at contest to have him work with me. And I'm in a room like this, just Darren and myself, the world champion. I can't tell you how nervous I was. That's probably the most nervous I've been ever. I mean, hundreds of people don't scare me, but the champ by himself with me, that was no fun. But at that point, I didn't flower the word for him to say, that was really nice. You did a good job. I went there from and say, no, that was horrible. You can't do that. You've got, but that's a whole different level of doing that kind of thing when you're in coaching or in that type of environment, rather than what we're doing with evaluation. It says 10 behaviors of effective evaluator. Suit your evaluation to the speaker. Suit that is a couple different things. It depends on you and your experience and the experience of the speaker you're talking to. If you're not very experienced and they're experienced, or vice versa, so sometimes you be careful with. Also, the relationship you have to the speaker. And many times, if there's an experienced speaker and I were evaluating and I was being a little harder on them than I would be on a new speaker, I will make that statement to make sure that the audience knows it. Because I don't want you to walk in and go, boy, he was really hard on those people. If I'm talking to Ed, Ed's an experienced Toastmaster, I said, Ed, I might say, well, Ed's an experienced Toastmaster, I'm going to be a little harder on him than I would be on a brand new person. Listen actively. You've got to be paying attention when you're doing that. Personalize your language. As I said before, it's everybody's opinion. I like that opening. I like your story about the little blue bird. I like what things that you like, so they know it's your opinion, not necessarily the group's opinion. It's not Toastmasters' opinion, it's yours. Now, I didn't like that when I first came to the room, because I was always thinking, well, it's obvious it's my opinion. I'm the one who's up here speaking. But sometimes people don't take it that way. So you got to be sometimes careful in that you personalize your language. Show the speaker how to improve. A lot of times I will demonstrate that. I'll say, you know, what really would have been helpful is if you walked out in front and given us this, or you show that you care. But one of the problems, I went to the beginning, I said, I was feeling tension. I was a new Toastmaster. I was in this contest and they threw me into the contest. I thought, that's a horrible speech. I wasn't experienced enough to know what to do. If I knew what I know now, here's the real essence of it. You're trying to encourage them, you're trying to nurture them, you're trying to help them along. And that goes back to number one of these traits. Show that you care. So knowing that you care and communicating that. A couple years after that contest, I was back in an evaluation contest. And I knew from that other experience, I couldn't be feeling, I did that with a bad speech, and what can I, and I'm grinning through my tree trying to say something nice. I said, I've got to connect with the person. I've got to say, I really did like that. I really liked your story. I felt your passion. And I know, as I can remember even to this day, when I was standing on the stage, I was connecting and feeling connected to the person I was evaluating. And that time, instead of losing the contest and going off, going, oh, that was over, I won the contest. And I'm 99% sure that a lot of it is because I connected with the person, I felt empathy for her and her speech, even though I gave parts for approval, it was that connection with the person. Now, what I'm telling you is kind of an advanced skill. Sometimes it's hard to do, but I think that's the essence of the philosophy of what you're trying to do. You're trying to feel what the person feels and help them. Because what we're really doing, if people feel that they're trying to be helped, that is the key to it. You have an individual speech form. We only have one speaker, so you only need one of these. When Marcia comes up to give her speech, you're going to get to practice evaluating her. I'm going to give you a tip. One of the things that I do when I evaluate, when I have to come up here, since you're about to evaluate, you can listen to this. One of the things I do, I always write at the very top of my paper, read the objectives. Because for a club speech, you should always read the objectives. Even as experienced as I am, I write, read the objectives. Actually, above that, I write the manual, you know, whatever manual it is. Of course, many times you have the manual in your hand. So you have the manual in your hand, you say, read the objectives. If you don't do it, that's okay. We'll practice. So you read the objectives. And you know what that does? You've got 2 minutes you got to fill at least. That gives you time. And you can't use this in the contest, Marcia, but that is your canned opening. You think about it. That's your canned opening for all evaluations in the club.